Here's the plan. We're counting down the top-earning games made with Godot. Numbers might surprise you. Tiny teams, wild ideas, and huge results. These indie game successes are inspirational for future developers and gamers alike. We'll keep it friendly, fast, and as spoiler-light as possible. Ready to meet the hits that quietly took over 2025? Let's get started. Buckshot Roulette is the kind of game you hear about from a friend at 2 a.m., then suddenly 3 hours have passed. Released on April 4th, 2024 for PC, it's a tense table duel where you take turns pulling the trigger and messing with the odds using randomly assigned weird little gadgets. It looks gritty and low-lit, like a backroom dare, and plays in short, high-drama rounds. Reviews are overwhelmingly positive, and the reason for its explosive success is because streamers turned those coin flip moments into viral clips people had to see. The dev is Klubnika, a solo creator, so the team size is literally one person. The budget isn't publicly disclosed, but it's clearly a micro-budget project built in Godot and sold at a tiny price which helped it spread fast. The estimated earnings sit around $14 to $18 million by mid-2025, based on store data aggregators like VG Insights and widely reported sales milestones. Marketing was basically social media oxygen, watchable moments, meme-ready tension, and that just one more round pull. There have been steady patches and a separate multiplayer offshoot keeping the buzz alive. It's easy to learn, brutal to master, and perfect for quick shareable stories. Brotato is the snack game that somehow turns into a full-blown meal. It's a fast, 2D top-down arena where your little potato straps on up to 6 weapons and tries to survive short, punchy monster waves. You pick traits, shop between rounds, and chase goofy weapon combos that suddenly click and melt the screen. Reviews on Steam sit at overwhelmingly positive because it's easy to start, silly in the best way, and secretly deep if you want to min-max. The reason for success happened because it nailed quick runs, launched at a tiny price, and then spread to consoles, mobile, and Game Pass, which kept new players pouring in. It's made by Blobfish, a solo developer, so the budget was modest and not publicly shared, but you can feel how carefully it's scoped. Estimates put earnings in the low tens of millions of dollars by 2025, based on aggregator models and public milestones. Marketing was mostly capitalizing on its success momentum, with consistent patches, a chunky content cadence, DLC, and platform launches that refresh the spotlight. If you like tight feedback loops and wild build variety, this is dangerously one more run. Dome Keeper is the calm panic game I recommend when someone wants something different. It's a 2D pixel art loop where you sprint underground to mine resources, then scramble back to your glass dome to fend off the next alien monster wave. The magic is the timer, where you have to decide whether to dig deeper underground for a big dome upgrade, or retreat and repair it before the next wave arrives. That constant push and pull makes every minute feel important. Reviews land at very positive, and the surge in popularity started with a playable demo that hooked people early, followed by a super-focused launch and steady updates. The core team is tiny. Bippinbits is a 2-person studio with collaborators on audio, and the budget wasn't disclosed, but it's clearly a lean, well-targeted project backed by a savvy publisher. Public estimates put revenue around the low to mid-tens of millions of dollars on PC alone. Marketing leaned into the demo to wishlist pipeline, striking trailers, and community word of mouth rather than big ad spends. If you enjoy smart, systems-driven design and that just one more dig feeling, this one grabs you fast. Backpack Battles has pulled in an estimated $11 to $12 million, which is wild for a project this focused. It's a 2D PvP battler where the whole match happens in your backpack. You place items, fuse them into stronger versions, and try to outsmart someone doing the same thing on the other side. Rounds are quick, the mind games are real, and the "I almost had it" feeling keeps you queuing again. Reviews are very positive because it's easy to learn, but the depth shows up fast once you start crafting synergies. The game is made by PlayWithFurcifer, a solo developer, so we're talking about a tiny team and an undisclosed but clearly lean budget. The big boom came from early access visibility plus watchable PvP moments that circulated on Twitch and TikTok. However, rankings, frequent balance patches, and new characters that kept the meta fresh played an equally important role in its road to success. Marketing leaned on community tournaments, patch note hype, and creator content rather than expensive ads. If you like outsmarting people with clever builds and clean, readable combat, this one is dangerously sticky. Halls of Torment sits around $14 million in estimated revenue and proves how far strong fundamentals can go. It's a grim, fast action game with a 2D/2.5D look that feels chunky and readable, perfect when the screen gets busy. You pick a hero, dive into swarms of monsters, and build a loadout that snowballs from barely surviving to unstoppable force. The runs are short, unlocks are steady, and the feedback is crisp, which is why the reviews are at overwhelmingly positive with almost 20,000 reviews. The studio, Chasing Carrots, is a small team, under a dozen developers, working on a modest, undisclosed budget. The popularity spike came from a clean one-sentence hook, a friendly price, and a steady stream of updates that always gave players a reason to return. Marketing focused on creator outreach, regular dev posts, and community-driven feature drops rather than big campaigns. It's the kind of game you open for 10 minutes and somehow it's an hour later. WEBFISHING has pulled in an estimated $6 to $7 million so far, which is huge for something this cozy. It's a 3D social fishing game where you log in, walk around a bright campsite with other players, cast a line, and chat as you reel in everything from tiny snails to giant sharks. You upgrade rods and lures, complete a journal, earn money, and decorate your look. Reviews are overwhelmingly positive because it's simple to start and surprisingly sticky with friends. The developer goes by lamedeveloper, a solo creator working on an undisclosed but clearly small budget. The boom happened because the game is extremely watchable, with the price being friendly and updates consistently adding new fish, cosmetics, and events rolling in. The marketing strategy leaned on community clips, constant patch notes, and word of mouth more than paid ads. If you like low-pressure hangouts that still give you goals to chase, this is a warm campfire you can jump into anytime. Cassette Beasts is sitting around $4 to $5 million in estimated revenue, and it absolutely earns the love. It's a stylish 2D adventure where you explore an island, record creatures onto cassette tapes, and then transform into them during turn-based battles. The wild part is fusion. You can combine two forms into a new one, so team building feels creative and personal. Movement powers open up the map, quests tie the world together, and the soundtrack sells the mood. Reviews are very positive, and the big growth moment came from a smart launch plan. Day one on PC and consoles, strong updates like online multiplayer, and later a clean mobile release that brought in a new audience. The core team at Bytten Studio is 2 people, with collaborators on art and music, and the budget hasn't been shared, but it's a lean indie production. Marketing mixed Raw Fury's PR muscle with dev blogs, Discord community building, Game Pass placement, and well-timed discounts. If you enjoy exploring, tinkering with builds, and discovering clever combos, this one feels special. Cruelty Squad sits around $5 million in estimated revenue and earned it by being unforgettable. You take contracts, pick a loadout, and infiltrate dense, surreal levels to eliminate targets or grab valuables. You can sneak, go loud, or get creative with strange biomods that change how you move and fight. You earn cash, buy upgrades, and discover secret routes that let you break the rules in clever ways. Reviews are very positive because it rewards curiosity and lets you solve problems your own way. The game is made by consumer Softproducts, essentially a solo developer, and the budget was never shared, but everything about the project screams lean indie spend and lots of iteration. The boom came from word of mouth and striking visuals that made people curious enough to try it, then stick around for the depth. Marketing leaned on strong store pages, memorable trailers, big seasonal discounts, and a steady drip of community clips rather than ad campaigns. If you like experimenting and finding your own path, this is a playground that looks wild but plays brilliantly. Luck Be a Landlord is sitting at roughly $4 million in estimated revenue and thrives on simple choices that stack into big payoffs. You start with a basic slot machine, and after each spin, you draft symbols into your grid. Each symbol has rules, like giving coins on its own or boosting neighbors, so your little engine gets stronger as the rent deadlines tick closer. You grab items that twist the rules, prune weak picks, and chase satisfying chains that make the numbers pop. Reviews are very positive because it is easy to learn and hard to put down. The developer is TrampolineTales, a solo creator, working with a small, undisclosed budget and a very active update schedule. The big popularity spikes came first during early access, and then again when it launched on consoles, which brought a fresh wave of players. Marketing focused on open development posts, frequent patches, friendly pricing, discount events, and creators showing off wild builds. It is quick, readable, and quietly strategic in a way that keeps you saying one more spin. The case of the Golden Idol sits at roughly $3 million in estimated revenue, and it earned that by turning pure deduction into a thrill. Each chapter freezes time at the moment of a crime. You click around the scene, collect names, titles, places, and odd little details, then use those clues to fill in a solution board that answers who did what and why. It feels like building a theory piece by piece, and when it clicks, it really clicks. Reviews are very positive because it respects your brain and never talks down to you. The team is Color Gray, two developers working with a lean, undisclosed budget and a sharp vision for mystery design. The big growth moment came from a strong demo, glowing press, and story DLC that kept the conversation going. Marketing focused on great trailers, award buzz, and smart updates rather than big ad spends. If you like solving puzzles your own way and feeling clever without hints popping up every 5 seconds, this one is a no-brainer. Quick fact before we wrap, most of the hits in this list were built by teams of 1 or 2 people, yet together they have earned around $90 million. If you're a player, that's a ton of great games to dive into. If you're a dev, that's a reminder that small and focused can still land big. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe, tap like, and tell me in the comments which Godot made game hooked you hardest, or what you are building right now.